He's here. He's here. I saw him. He's out, and I think he was out in the. I saw him in that truck. He must be talking on the phone. Something.
Candy and water candy, but I would give them all of it.
My wife did that. She put her kids right next to my church. I'm like, you're killing me. Man, I don't think this.
Oh, no, I'm fine. I'll eat the whole bag.
Yeah. Get started is hard to stop. Where are they on schedule? I'm assuming they should,
Hello, ladies.
How are you, Jeff?
All right. Something like that. How about you? Mine never. When your mom died on Christmas Eve, when you're 10 years old, you give shit. Oh, I'm sorry. That's the camera running.
Thank you. Hey, how y'all? Good.
say hello.
Mayor, how you doing, sir? Pretty good? All right, we're gonna have to, pretty good, we're gonna have to pull back on that news I gave you the other day on the phone. That's all phone. And we're in negotiation term, we in the portal, but we ain't going on. All right.
Right. I mean, children is just not seen very often these days.
What's the last time it's been?
Did you contact Charlie with it? They got caught. I mean, hello, sir. How are you? All right. Who am I speaking? Nice to meet you, Mr. Commissioner Williams. How you doing?
What's up, Johnny? Good to see you.
Are you Johnny Y or Johnny I? Y. Thank you, Johnny.
Space for Commissioner Williams, you want to spread out on the table. I guess they get you to sign in on that list there, and we can put that list on top. Oh, yeah, get right on over.
All righty, it's 4 o'clock, so let's call this meeting to order. On behalf of the board, we would like to wish everybody a Happy New Year and welcome all of our neighbors who are sitting in on this meeting. Let's take a moment to read the minutes to ourselves, please. Do we have a motion for approval?
I'd like to amend the minutes and include findings of facts for our November meeting to include the reasons for coming up with resolution for solar or power industrial
they ran out. Just give it to June. And if you guys remember, we discussed this in the November meeting. Do we have a motion? Second. All in favor? Any old business that needs to be brought before the board?
The only old business, Mr. Chair, that I can think about, that I didn't know firsthand on whether or not we had actually scheduled a public hearing, published a public hearing notice for the subdivision regulation amendment concerning the county environmental nomenclature that was found. And since I didn't know whether or not the public hearing had been done, I didn't find a receipt of it in the papers that I read from the bottom of the bulletin. I just didn't bring the amendment to resolution, the subdivision regulation amendment, based upon I didn't know whether or not the notice was published. So, that was the only old business that I had. If it has been scheduled, then we can introduce the amendment as well as the public hearing for that amendment on next month. If it has not, then we need to go ahead and get it published so that the 30 days can take place prior to the amendment being voted upon by you as a body. And that's the subdivision regulation amendment, addressing the subdivision regulations where all of the old references to county environmental is taken out, and that the TDEC representative is put in this place. So it's just a simple amendment.
And we're gonna wish for that to be on the February.
Well, I'm trying to get clarification on whether or not that, the public notice that, we had put in the agenda packet, if that was actually published. If it was not, then we need to change that, said, public hearing notice and put the new dates in there, being February, or whenever we had a 30-day, we meet the 30-day requirement, and, we will proceed and govern ourselves accordingly.
Chairman, I don't believe a public hearing notice was put in for the, editing of the subdivision.
Okay, thank you. I got you. Thank you, Mr. Pierce. So what we'll do is, we'll amend that, public hearing notice, and, we'll get that, to the appropriate bodies, necessary, and, if, when our next meeting, if it's in February, if there is a 30-day, left between today and that said meeting, we'll set it up for February. If it's not 30 days, then we probably gonna have to schedule it in March.
I believe that the meeting is scheduled for 4 p.m. on February 13th.
February 13th.
All right, whatever the calendar days fall.
So we got that to you all tomorrow. We'll be meeting, we'll be right on the nose.
Right on the nose.
Can you get it tomorrow?
Of course, it's already done. I just gotta change the date.
Okay,
So
let's,
that's February.
let's just plan and respond accordingly. Let's get it to the staff, and then we'll get it in the paper, and then we'll have it on the February agenda.
All right, and since Mr. Pierce was, gave out the date of the next meeting, can he repeat that? It was February 11th,
February 13th.
13th?
4 p.m.
Thank you kindly, sir.
Any additional old business? Colleagues? New business?
Yes, we'll now, take over as running the meeting, vacating all officers, of the, Hardeman County Regional Planning Commission at this particular time. The officers are chair, vice chair, and secretary, and respectively, they are the following person. Chair, Mr. Eddie Moore, vice chair, Mr. Andy Shelton, and secretary, Ms. Mary Ann Pope. There are two ways to handle this. We can take a motion from the floor to vote those said persons back into their positions by acclamation, or we can take nominations from the floor nominating respectively, first for the chair, second for the vice chair, and then third for secretary, nomination from the floor on each. The first being the chair, second will be vice chair, and third will be secretary. So now, we're entertaining any motion, that you want to bring forth regarding the slate of officers at this particular time.
Mr. Mayor, I've got just a quick question.
Yes.
I'm new to this committee. Mr. Moore and I both are on the BZA
Yes.
and this committee. And I just want to get your opinion on is there any potential liability for the chairman or any other officers being the same for both committees that you're aware of?
You're gonna get that question too often. Wow. Well, there's something, illegal about it, if that's what you're asking. But, if you do go to court for any matter, someone that is appealing a decision that you all made at the planning commission, they can feel if, they just saw one person chairing the meeting in one, and that same person is chairing the next meeting, in the BZA. This is all conjecture, and, we're just putting it out there, what could happen. They could construe that to be, that they're not getting a fair shake. Not saying that the board would act in an arbitrary and capricious manner, but it's what you see on his face, the semblance of them not feeling like they're gonna get any justice because the same person that was running the planning commission meeting is running the board that has been set up as a quasi-judicial board to appeal, to render variances and uses permitted on appeal and whatnot. So having said that, it's not illegal, but if you ordinary Joe Blow out there might feel that he's being picked on or he's not getting true justice, the same person is not, govern both meetings. I would say that as long as there's not a majority from the planning commission serving on the BZA, that all not matter, but I hope I answered your question.
You did. I just didn't want, I want to make sure that Mr. Moore didn't have any undue liability.
Understood. Oh, okay. And any more questions before we take nominations from the floor?
Or nominate the current slate of candidates already.
Okay, Mr. Matt Carter has made a motion that to keep the same slate of officers the same. Is there a second to that motion?
Second.
Okay, it's been motioned and properly seconded that you keep the slate of officers, and I'll go ahead and read for the record again, those officers respectively. Chair, Eddie Moore, Vice Chair, Andy Shelton, and Secretary, Mary Ann Polk. Are the members ready for the call of the question? All those ready say aye. Are those opposed, nay? All right, well, congratulations to you all again. All right, our 2024 officers are Mr. Eddie Moore, Chair, Vice Chair, Mr. Andy Shelton, and Secretary, Ms. Mary Ann Polk. And so at this particular time, Shelton is going to get out of the way and deliver back into our hands by Chair.
Okay, let's continue on with new business. Item B.
Okay. I guess item B would be, discussion of, chapter 19, exceptions and modifications, and section 19.01, line of record of the Hardeman County zoning resolution. I was approached by a county commissioner, concerning, things that were being brought to his attention, regarding,
the enforcement of the zoning resolution or its interpretation in regards to permits and things of that nature on existing lots of record. And, you know, I was kind of taken aback by that because we've already had provisions in the zoning resolution to protect or lay out the procedure in that regard. If you look at the write-up there, in 1901, the zoning resolution, it specifically states whenever you have a lot of record, that, of course, you ought to go before the Board of Zoning Appeals for the right to appeal. Not just be told a certain thing and that's it. Due process of law calls for an appeal process. So with that being said, it's spelled out right there in the zoning resolution. However, the commissioner wanted to buttress and wanted more teeth to that. And so, as an attempt to that, I think that your commissioner is Commissioner Bell. So as an attempt to do that, we just basically, when you go to the resolution there on page 5, what we did was we split sections 3.02, and we split them into two sections, 3.02A and a 3.2B. And all that stuff is just about the same except for when you talk about a regular structure, non-conforming regular structures, they have 2 years to deal with that as opposed to a year. That's the difference in that. Then they talk about, if you look on page 6, non-conforming residential uses being exempt from existing setbacks, lot size requirements, yard requirements, and coverage requirements, things that those would be the ordinary procedural things that they would petition the Board of Zoning Appeals as far as trying to get variances such. For the most time, it's yard setback and things of that nature, but given the size of the lot, it could be a variation, if not all of those requirements. And then item 2 just buttresses it a little more of that. And then D is basically, we've already taken out the non-conforming clauses. That was done by resolution back in 2014. I think all non-conforming uses were supposed to cease in 2000, I think it was 15 or something like that, or whatever. So we've already, we knew that wasn't going to be the case, so we went on and done a resolution amendment to take care of that. However, we have just failed to get it in the zoning resolution, and for that we apologize. But for this new D that they wanted, is all non-conforming residential building structures and land uses as of this date, 2024, shall be exempt from provisions of this resolution and shall include structures consistent with sections 3.023. So that's pretty much the resolution that was being introduced by Commissioner Bell there, and that's it in its entirety. So we'll leave it up to you all. Question or somebody wants to speak.
Mr. Chair, if I would. Dave, Commissioner Bell is not able to be here because he is out of town. He called me yesterday. He sent me an email and asked me if I would read it to the Planning Commission in this meeting. He hated he couldn't be here. He's in Arizona. I think he was having some truck problems and couldn't make it back. And he emailed me and I read it off, and I was just going to read it verbatim of what he emailed me, if y'all would be so kind to indulge me.
Yes,
sir. On the grandfather amendment, I've been getting phone calls and emails from people in multiple districts, mainly old, large subdivisions within the county. I have been made aware that over 90% of the vacant developed residential lots in the county are located within 3 subdivisions, all of which are located on private roads, have private water systems, and are gated communities with deed restrictions. Apparently, these developments have been verbally exempted from the zoning resolutions since we adopted zoning in 1993. It is my understanding our new zoning compliance officer has not been issuing permits unless all provisions have been met. It is also my understanding there are some walkarounds within our zoning ordinance, and some have not been recommended to lot owners as options, and some have not. I am bringing this amendment to hash this out or to discuss interpretation of our zoning regulations. I am bringing this amendment as a cure to this issue. I hope to simplify the process and remove the discretionary items that seem to be forbidding the issuance of a zoning permit. Hopefully, this will make the zoning office workload lighter and remove the county from liability of bad decisions. I contacted a citizen and told him what I was trying to accomplish in this amendment. He drafted some general language, and Mr. Merrill took the time to clean everything up and put it in resolution form. I am satisfied with the resolution presented before you. In section 3.02 C1, it is my intent to remove certain general provision requirements from lots of record in residential districts for single-family buildings and structures in order to allow residential growth to flourish throughout Hardeman County. Lots of record of those building lots that were recorded in the Register of Deeds office prior to September 1993, when we adopted countywide zoning. Section 1 relates to lots of record of platted subdivisions and all subdivided land which had deed restrictions and continue to be ruled by a protective covenant. These lots would be exempt from 4 of our standard provisions: minimum lot size, setbacks, land coverage density, and minimum lot width requirements. These developments have been self-sufficient for over 50 years and have proven to be able to self-govern their private communities with no harm to the public or environment. Section 2 relates to lots of record of platted subdivisions and all subdivided land which did not have deed restrictions or covenants or have had a disruption in the covenant at some point since the adoption of zoning. These lots would be exempt from 2 of our standard provisions: minimum lot size and minimum lot width requirements. These developments, which are random scattered developments, still have to meet setback and lot coverage requirements, but not minimal lot size or width. In section 3.02D, I have included a general grandfathering clause which would exempt all non-conforming residential buildings, structures, and uses from zoning resolution from the date of passage of this amendment. I want to draw a line in time and consider this a reset exemption of existing structures and uses. This will simplify enforcement and remove the fear of retroactive enforcement actions by the county onto landowners. It is my opinion that as we continue to debate industrial development, try to decide what we want and need. Residential growth is more desired. Hardeman County should be the least attractive. We are not rezoning or adding new lots. We are simply allowing current buildings and uses to continue and erasing restriction on lots of record to promote residential growth. This amendment will not omit the requirement of a zoning permit or other provisions of the resolution. A zoning permit is a tool used by the tax assessors to become aware of constructed buildings and their value. To use this document for tax purposes and to verify that a septic system is in place when necessary. I hope the Planning Commission has a full understanding of the purpose and intent of this amendment. Thank you.
Well, let me start this conversation off. To all of my colleagues who've been working on this, we need to do a better job amongst one another to sit down and have a better understanding of this type of stuff in terms of training, etc., before we get to this point. You know, sending emails like this, I understand the commissioner's intent, but there's a lot of stuff that's read there that you just read in that email. And quite frankly, I would imagine a lot of us around this table would have liked to have a training session or sit down and really digest this so that we could have a better dialogue in today's meeting. So I'm disappointed in that regard. I need and I would like for us to sit down, have a candid and open conversation on what we had in place and the proposed changes so that we can make the best and informed decisions for our neighbors, not only in those communities, but throughout the county, because this resolution mentions 3 communities. My first question is, what happens to those citizens and our neighbors who are not within those communities that feel as if they fall and are granted, should be given the same rights? So we can't just put certain communities and certain people in a grab bag and not address this countywide. I think that's short-sighted of us. So let's make sure that we look at it. Shelton, you are our expert. We really need to lean on you and get some insight on this. From my understanding, let me finish. I'll be brief. From my understanding, these ordinances have been in place for 1992. So this is not new to whomever bought these lots at all. This is not new. So if we're going to sit here and make these changes, we need to have a clear understanding how it's going to benefit our neighbors and the county staff, etc. I wish the commissioner was here when he says that we don't make mistakes or prevent us from making mistakes. We hire competent people to do their jobs. Let our people do their jobs. If they cannot do their jobs, then we need to find people who can do their job. And I say that with this being a friend of mine. I'm absolutely convinced that we have a great staff, we have a great consultant, etc. So let's allow the people who we put in charge to do their jobs. I'm not a proponent of micromanaging people, second guessing their decisions, because we're all here to do what's in the best interest of our neighbors in the county. So please, Shelton, take some time. Let's take a step back and let's discuss this so that we all know what we're gonna vote on today and how this is gonna impact everybody in the county, not just the folk that live and reside in those gated communities or who own property in those gated communities or who is looking to buy property in those gated communities. Because what applies to them should apply to everybody across the county. If we're going to circumvent the current ordinance, unless there's reasons that I'm not aware of, based upon your professional understanding and gems on how we should address folk who do not live within those gated communities.
Okay, basically, thank you for your comments there, Mr. Chair. Pretty spot on. I will just say that the following. These established developments were there prior to the establishment of zoning and subdivision regulations in this county. It was mentioned that zoning resolution was concocted sometime in 1993. Also, additionally, the subdivision regulations were engendered in circa 2000, or adopted circa 2000, March of 2001. With that, these developments are no longer predates 50 years of age. With that, those lots or whatever that they have there as existing should be considered grandfathered. And whenever you have a situation that depicts lots or have been created and have existed prior to the establishment of zoning, the establishment of subdivision regulations, they should be held harmless. Now, should not be spread out, the love should not be spread to those who do not fit that criteria. The criteria is having property, having property and creating lots either before or after the establishment of both the zoning resolution for Hardeman County, Tennessee, and subsequent to that, the subdivision regulation. In regards to training, we need, moving forward, we need to seriously consider moving and we know that the Board of Zoning Appeals is an ad hoc quasi-judicial committee that basically, and excuse me for my phone going off during the meeting, I thought I had it turned off, committee for appeals purposes. It would seem to me if we're seriously and legitimately trying to ascertain training, that we wouldn't schedule those meetings on the same day.
I agree.
And those meetings, given the potential heft and the potential load and particular things that might be introduced in those agendas, everybody needs their own time. And so we can't do our job to deliberate on complicated matter and discuss sophisticated things when the clock's ticking and we got another meeting at 5 o'clock. So with that going forward, I would just suggest that if we don't already have bylaws for the Board of Zoning Appeals, that we create an amendment to their bylaws, if there are any that exist, and basically move their meetings to a separate date. So we don't feel rushed and we can deliberate and excogitate, plan out loud, how we meet. So with that, and getting beyond all those silly 30,000 words don't mean nothing, and get to the nuts and bolts of this thing, what we need to do quite simply is basically read what's before us. There's really nothing complicated to that resolution. It just re-emphasizes what's already there in 19.01. That, so to go back to my statement about spreading love to everybody, if you didn't have a lot of records and you were subdividing prior to the establishment of subdivision regulations and zoning resolution, that's not apropos. It's not germane to what we're talking. You don't get any. Tennessee Code annotated the specific title, the specific chapter, and the specific section. It escapes me now, but we can pull it up in the laptop. It'll take a minute to get it on. It gives specific language to grandfather properties that predated zoning. That's why it's been somewhat mirrored in 19.01 of the zoning resolution. All this resolution right here is doing is basically going from 1 year to reestablish a single family dwelling, non-conforming. You're giving it 2 years, and you're basically taking up non-conforming residential uses located on lots of record within a platted subdivision developed on private roadways and served by public water or subdivided land that was recorded in the Hardeman County Record of Deeds Office prior to the adoption of this resolution, and are bound by deed to a restrictive covenant and subject to an active property owner association since the date of the plat recorded, shall be exempt from all setback, lot size requirements, yard requirements, lot coverage requirements of this resolution. And then likewise, down there number 2. So, I get it, I get your consternation somewhat.
Sure, I have a question. But does 1901 not currently allow anyone with a lot of record that option just to apply for a variance and go before the BZA with what we have existing?
What 1901 does is that anybody that has a lot of record that was prior to the zoning resolution and the subdivision regulation, it allows them the process to go before the Board of Zoning Appeals and be heard for the grant their right for variance because their lot predated zoning.
So that already exists, correct?
That already is in the plan.
Yeah. And
But
I
all
guess
this-
the only thing this would omit is then defining all the lots of record that would be grandfathered, then there will be no need for them to pay the fee to go before the BZA, so we'll be losing
That-
revenue of that exercise.
Well, that is correct. That's correct, but what that does is, it takes the onus upon the property owner from having to pay a fee to go before the Board of Zoning Appeals to be heard to get what due to them anyway.
That's right.
So I guess it's incumbent upon us while we deliberating to decide, do we wanna put another tax? Oh, no, I'm not gonna say tax, another pecuniary, hurdle, to those people wanting to develop their property? Or we gonna exempt them that have lots of record that predated the zoning and subdivision regulations? And we basically take that extra hurdle away from it. I guess that's basically what we're gonna do.
So what about all of the lots in those communities that are not sold as of today?
Basically, I don't think that has any material, difference. It's not if it's recorded.
If it's recorded.
If it's recorded, it's
still
recorded. It's a
lots.
lot of record regardless of who buys it.
You're right.
And I think it's a needed statement here. Some people say, well, variances run with the property owner. No, they do not. According to Tennessee Code annotated, variances run with the property. So once a property owner ascertains a variance on a yard setback or home occupation or whatever from the Hardeman County Regional Board of Zoning Appeals, that particular deliberation, once they provide their findings of fact and deliberate on what they heard, make a motion to the effect of granting the variance or not granting the variance, or special exception or not granting the special exception, and the reasons thereof, or the reasons they did not. After they done all of that, it is what it is. The Board of Zoning Appeal, that property, that variance, that special exception, whatever is being asked for, runs in perpetuity with the ground. So in other words, that property, that subject property, that address, whoever ascertained that you submitted on the field, whoever ascertained that or got that or asked for that yard setback, that's permanent. It don't run with Shelton, Maryland, it runs from 32 John Doe.
And if I can, Sheldon, this, whether you further define it with this or not, this would encompass 90% of the issues we have with the gated communities. The other 10% would be with lots that the state says would not occur. And the other legality I see is where individuals have bought multiple lots and then they go build a house in the middle of them. State law says that you can't legally build a house on 2 lots, that they have to be all encompassed on one. The state requirement for septic says it has to be served all on one lot and cannot serve to an adjacent lot. So it would fix all of that and eliminate it, but it's still, there are certain other aspects that they would have to be per state requirements.
And how would that be that way?
Again, now, if you can't take several lots and build on the milk straddle, basically straddle the property lines, is like I call it, what I call it. There's nothing wrong with the zoning compliance officer telling the property owner in that particular instance, where they've gone in and built a structure that straddles the property line. Regardless, if the state statute is that they can't do that, then it'd be in their best interest to combine said property.
And that's.
If that's the case, if there's a state statute that promulgates that. So, if, you know, if the evidence is there, and, you know, that they can't do that, regardless of whatever I saw in the resolution states, that would be incumbent upon the property owner to get that flag, and to where they can somewhat without regulation. But I would offer that those would probably only happen in areas where they had to do it like that in order to get a permit to get it. But yes, sir, Mr. Chris, I see what you're saying.
And what is the current fee?
$250, I think, to go for the BZA. To have a variance issue.
And that fee's been in place since,
I think we updated these last February. We updated our fee structure to be more aligned with the surrounding areas. Before last February, 75 or what was it? 100. So I don't know how long that one has been in place. I would assume since the adoption of the fee structure and the resolution was put in place.
so the majority of our neighbors that purchase lots, they did so after 1992, I'd imagine. I'm just conversation purposes. And in doing so, there's a $50 fee that they would have to pay to go to the Board of Zoning Appeals.
At that time, I think we had to 100.
At that time, it may have been 100.
I think the building permit would have been 50 at that time.
So basically, what in essence.
Well, it's only comparison, because the Hardeman County doesn't have building in the code. Yeah, I hate to do that to you, but we got it's a record to go.
I'm sorry, I missed it.
We issue permits for land use. Even though since 1992, this county has elected to call it a building permit, and that's what the state on the paper. It is not a building permit, it is a land use application against the identification of whether it's industrial, commercial, RMH, FAR, residential, or light homes. It says that you're doing the right application for what that land use code is identified in the resolution book. Then you go beyond that and you institute setbacks and the type of dwellings that can be in single or multi-dwelling situations were applicable for the land use application. You wouldn't build a duplex in a subdivision. You wouldn't build a some type of commercial entity inside the country. It prevents things of that nature. It talks about where a trailer can be and where a trailer can't be. It talks about the size lot that is required in residential versus the size lot required in FAR and RMH.
So how do we address the fact that we are not having a conversation regarding our neighbors who do not live in gated communities?
The only thing I would ask, if we're gonna change it, let's apply it to everybody. Let's be fair to everybody.
Michelle?
That's an approach to take, but I would believe that what we have currently in 1901 takes care of everybody that had a subdivision prior to the establishment of the zoning resolution and the establishment of subdivision. So I mean,
I agree.
since that's done, I think what this does is re-emphasizes that more so, and that, hey, I would just say run it through the gamut, send it to the county commission and see where it goes up there. You know, kick it. But I would think that, since this was bought by the county commission, I would think it'd be a courtesy to either vote it up or down and, state in your findings of fact the reasons for doing it or the reasons for not voting for it in the affirmative to equity endorsement to the Hardeman County Commission.
Well, we're definitely gonna get to that point today. Sir, as a commissioner. So, in a nutshell, to paraphrase, layman's terms, for this dumb old country boy here. We're gonna streamline the process. They have to go before the BZA, which is and by not going before the BZA, we would eliminate the $250 fee that was increased a year ago. And what is the commissioners who represent all of the taxpayers in Hardeman County, how do you feel about eliminating that revenue? How's that going to impact? And I understand the benefits from my neighbors. I understand that aspect. But we have fees in place for a reason. And now we're making a decision that we're going to eliminate that fee. It's worth a discussion. How does that impact the planning commission budget? How does that impact what you guys have planned for? Let's put all this on the table so that we can, let's be transparent. And let's talk about this before we make those decisions, because that's part of this whole thing. We're eliminating a fee.
Well, I think when in terms of, when you asked Mr.
I want a commissioner's perspective on how that's an
I
impact.
would ask, Jim about, about how many of those permits are, been generated in the last.
We had, building permits go through one, sub-count number, and then all appeals, variances, and other, site reviews go through another. I think to date we've done about 11,000 now, not just appeals and variances, but site reviews and things like that are grouped in there. And not all of them are to the lots within the gated communities. But it's a minimum a third of the annual intake. And I'm not sure this eliminates all of them, but it does eliminate some. I'd have to go do a more thorough analysis with the bookkeeper to understand the effects of just eliminating that one input.
Just those requests.
Those appeals, those variance requests, yes.
The reason why I bring it up is because the Commissioner Bell made it clear in his email that one of his objectives were to reduce workload. And that he felt that if we did this, it reduced the workload for the planning department.
Yeah.
Is that factual?
How do you feel about that?
I don't think it shifts the workload, and I just want to say that, since I took office in Todd's administration, there is no one in the gated community that's been held accountable for not complying with the regulations under prior management. Why they elected or didn't elect to, enforce the restrictions, I cannot speak to. All I can tell you is I've addressed the issues that walked through the door or somebody reported under my watch. And there's been some people that have been caught in precarious situations. You have a couple that had started their bill process under prior administration, and they're pretty adamant that it was told that they didn't need a permit. They got some bad information wholesale from their contractor, unfortunately, at the time. They told them they didn't need state permits. There's no exclusion from state permits if you erect a dwelling that you sleep in that has electrical and plumbing in it. That is a state requirement. I tell you that couple's done everything and has tirelessly tried to meet the standards. I signed a permit for them this week. It says, I recognize the prior management told them they could do it. I found that to be true in several other cases. I've also looked at years where there was no permit issued under prior management for any building. That we have multiple dwellings built in all three of these communities, and there was no permits whatsoever. Now, that's a problem right there, because that misrepresented the information that went to the tax assessor's office and also the U.S. Census Bureau calculates population and building. But I made it very clear. I don't think you can go back and how you gonna tell somebody they can't live or tear down? I mean, that, I don't mean to say it, but you don't pay me enough to look somebody in the eye and tell them they're gonna tear down something they built. All I can tell you is, whatever we decide, let's be fair to everybody going forward. But to permit them or not permit them, or to variance them or not variance them, that doesn't affect our workload whatsoever.
So are we going out and citing these people that didn't have a permit?
Citing, if we see anybody under construction, we tell them they need a building permit. And unfortunately, how 19 and the rest of the book reads today, it doesn't say grandfathered. It says that you'll be this far back, you'll be this far off the size, and you'll have this minimum lot. When I've talked to people at the board of, let's just say, Wood Run. When they built Wood Run, they had residential lots, they had commercial lots, and they had camping lots. They never really intended for residential buildings to be erected on the camping lots. They're not sized accordingly for what the current minimum lot requirement will be, which is a half acre.
Is that the biggest hurdle right now, is half acre trigger?
Yeah, that's the problem, yeah. So, but anybody that has it less than a half acre, if they can get it perked with the state, and that is a problem in certain zones of Hardeman County, we don't rule on it one way or the other. Their path right now is to request a variance for said lot, pay the fee and go before the BZA, which I will explain to them. And the 4 cases we've done in the last 2 or 3 months, they're not making no more new land. These are crammed inside other lots. They don't have an option. So how do we tell these people when they bought that and it was sold by the real estate or by the board as a buildable lot that they can't build? And today, under my administration, I haven't seen none denied. So I believe the process will be working. But we'll change it however y'all like to change it.
This being my first meeting on this committee, and I'm really new to all of this information. But I mean, I don't know as far as going back and changing stuff or not, but it seems like we should lay a level ground field for going this forward.
Yeah, that has
For
been-
every.
Yeah, Mr. Wayne, I don't know how you go back, you just can't fix it.
Right.
Currently, there is no citation to anybody that's not compliant in prior, building times. They've received no letters, they've received no, citations, and first of all, my office don't issue citations.
Right.
So, all we've asked the people that are currently in the building process are seeking to build, meet the requirements. And if you don't have a half acre, you would have to seek the variance of less than that.
Have you run across any issues of lots being less than a half acre outside the 3 private neighborhoods that we discussed?
Yes, and many residential areas are RNHs.
And less than a half acre?
Yes. They have the same option. They can go before the BZA and request a variance, and that's to that requirement. And have done so. All the variances have not been in the gated communities.
But the difference is, as it stands right now, based upon this resolution, they will have to go before the BZA and pay the fee. Am I correct? This isn't,
Right.
this isn't, this is.
Right, they would have to go pay fee right now as it stands now, right?
I would argue, I mean, to y'all's point, I agree completely with what Commissioner Weems has said. I don't think, as far as fees goes, we need to make it as easy as possible for them if they do have to go before the BZA. To me, as a resident of Hardeman County, we want rooftops equals tax revenue, or tax revenue is much bigger than any fee that we would incur, I mean, fee, that's real tax dollars on the basis, how we would adjust that, or if we adjust that, I'm not making that, motion here by any means, but again, and to Commissioner Bell's point, and I think that's what he conveyed to me. He wants to see rooftops. Rooftops equals people, people spending money in the community, and, you know, tax revenue for our county.
Any additional comments? Any additional comments from staff?
So basically, what we're saying is, we're gonna vote this in. The biggest change it's gonna do is take them paying the $250.
That's the way I read it.
That's
That
pretty
all
much,
lots-
that's pretty much is
All
what
those
we're
lots are
talking about.
grandfathered, and it would truly introduce the word grandfathered into our resolution, which currently today does not exist. Just I asked you, and everybody sitting here, when you introduce that word, just somebody please explain to me, somebody walks through the door, who do I apply to, who do I work?
Well, I can't in good conscience. If we're going to do this, it needs to apply for all of our neighbors and all the taxpayers in the county. So that will be the first change that we'll have to make to this. I understand the situation that our neighbors are faced within those communities. But their situation is no different than anybody else's. So if we're gonna do this, if we're gonna go on this road, let's make sure we address it, you know, in its fullest extent going forward. And Mr. Shelton, if there's anything that we can add to this that would make sure this applies to everybody, then so be it.
Take it, there's two approaches. One approach would be doing away with the provision that they don't have to go before the board of zoning appeals.
Yeah, why can we not have them go before the Board of Zoning Appeals, but they still pay a fee?
I mean, that could be entertained.
Because that adds a level of assurance that everybody's gonna be doing what needs to be done, am I correct?
That's correct.
Is there any reason why that should not be the case?
Trying to think, putting people on the spot there, Mr. Chairman.
Just,
Y'all pay me $50 a month to ask questions.
just
I'm
want
giving everybody their money's worth.
I just want everybody to remember, when you relieve this
Basically.
burden, there's gonna be a whole bunch of places and a whole bunch of areas that ain't gated communities that people are gonna drag trailers up, because it's gonna relieve the requirement that keeps them living there now. When you tell somebody they have a lot of record and they don't meet this requirement, which was a half acre or an acre, when they bought it historically, this ain't talking about pretty little houses built in Woodrun or Grand Valley. You're gonna have a lot of people that are not gonna be happy with the trailers that are growing up next to them.
Can you expound on that again? Let's talk about this.
There's
That's
places-
not the
There's
intent.
places in Grand Junction, there's places in Salisbury where there are small lots that do not, allow for the placement of a trailer in a already made area.
Absolutely.
Alright, so last time I checked, Salisbury and Hickory Valley and Grand Junction was here at the same time Highway 57 was. So if you relieve this for everybody, which we order, I would ask why we do something for one we don't do for all, that's all I'm asking. But there's always the other side to this too. There's a little bitty lots that you can put a trailer now that someone would argue, why would you deny me the opportunity to put a trailer here on this 8 acre? When everybody else can do it somewhere else, build a house. Most prevalent, that's around Salisbury and Grand Junction, because I hear those complaints about the current administration over there. And you get some of those calls, and I was telling them what the county requirements are, they're not being persecuted. This zone has this requirement. I think the thing that they established in 1992 to always bring each situational occurrence through a governing body to rule, allow those questions to be asked, and be practical for what they were doing for the circumstance. When you remove that checks and balance system, has a lot of pros to it, but there are some cons that exist.
The only way to make this work for everybody in the community is for everybody to have grandfather lots to be exempt from the fee requirements of borders on industry. If you wanna make this to where it affect everybody that has a situation going on, that's the only way to basically to handle it.
Well, you said if we wanna make it, do you see a reason why we shouldn't?
Well, whether you should or you shouldn't, that's upon your own needs. Are we using a certain agency or a certain department just to be revenue generating? Or are we doing it just to be a service to the community? We know it's a little bit of both, but I mean, where's the happy medium there?
Let me
We
answer
don't, we
that.
don't wanna be, we collecting fees, but we servicing the community down here and then collecting the fees up here.
Well, I can answer that, so that we're clear from my perspective. I don't think it's a fee issue at all. I think that we brought that question up so that we all understand, so that we can move forward and vote. If the board decides that we're gonna waive the fee, then so be it. What I wanna make sure that whatever we decide today, if possible, can it apply to everyone else? And how do we do that to everyone else? Now, whether or not somebody pays a $25 fee, $50 fee, or $250 fee, I'm fine with having that dialogue, and if this board says that let's waive the fee, then let's waive the fee. But I also wanna make sure that if we think it's in the best interest that they still go before the Board of Appeals, then so be it. I wanna dissect this resolution to its fullest extent so that we all know what we're voting on and what we're going to do. Now, Jim brings up a good point. How do we deal with the colleagues in Grand Junction, some of these other areas? Because you're right. I see people all the time trying to put trailers on these small lots. Surely our neighbors there, to a certain degree, don't want trailers popping up everywhere without having some say, so without having going before a board of some sort to try to protect them.
But that's the good point, Mr. Chairman, I see where you're going, but when you zone R-mentioned, that argument about what the community wants goes out the window. Because R-mentioned allows for mobile home. Which was something they should have considered prior to '94, when they concocted the zoning map. They should have went with a residential district as opposed to residential mobile home. But I guess they were trying to accommodate those that wanted to bring in campers.
Well, let's be real careful now, because you're saying that these folks should have considered this, but.
I mean, if they didn't want to.
No, let me finish.
No.
But we have an ordinance that's been in place since 1982 as well, so there's 1992. So I just wanna make sure, from this board perspective, that we take everything in consideration. If that means we're gonna sit here and discuss this at 10 o'clock, then so be it. But, the monetary aspect of it, I'm fine. I don't wanna tax our neighbors. But we also need to have a clear understanding of the repercussions of not collecting those fees. Let's not pretend like Hardeman County is running around here with a pocket full of money. So let's just discuss it openly and transparently, so everybody hears what everybody has to say before we make this decision, is all I'm asking.
I think the fee in this amount was adequately prorated to the amount of activity that when somebody come in and fill out an application, making those copies, getting it to said BZA, to having contacted Shelley, he usually does a fact finding on the situation. If it's a matter being submitted to the BZA, renders back a ruling that either myself or I pass on to him. It's more about the activity and along with it than it was necessarily revenue generated.
But, by waiving the fee, I mean, the process still has to go on for appeal, right?
That's right, as it stands today, unless you, and they still would have, yes, as it reads today. If you eliminated the fee, the activity tree and schematics is still the same, sir.
So, but you mentioned that would make trailers start popping up everywhere,
No.
we waive the fee.
Waiving the fee has nothing to do with that. If you waive the requirement for telling people in specific land use code zones that lots of records are exempt from resolutions requirements, remember what you're saying.
Yeah, and if a bunch of these appeals go through that there's no fee, I mean, that's gonna be a burden, you know?
But I think that if we want to accommodate the need, but also take care of the people, we need to look at that fee and what the board of zoning appeals charge. Now, an ordinary, person going to work, like such as myself, you know, and I can come out of my pocket for $250, just start and get a variance on, because I have a yard that's shaped funny, and I have a great big ditch running across it, and I got a bill add on to my house. I think my fee should be a little bit different than somebody coming in with a commercial or an industrial proposition. So why in the world, since we have this fee schedule, why don't we look at that thing again and break it down from commercial, industrial, and to residential? Because one might would think, and I'm just thinking out loud, that $250 is a exorbitant amount of money to pay just to have 5 folks hear my plea and for them to render a decision on whether or not I won't get a chance to build my carport.
I don't recall any situations where they were requesting a permanent form of cost for it. I recall many situations they are requesting the right to build. And in the large scheme of things, in 2024, the average cost of building a residential area is about $224 a square foot. I think $250 will be lost in that construction.
Well, I paid the money, I heard 200, but I mean, regardless if it's a carport or not, I haven't been receiving anything regarding board of zoning bill. So, let's not get in the weeds here. We're not gonna be in a situation here where we're gonna be talking about each other in 2 hours per resolution. So, if you looking for me to figure all night, I can, but, you know, I'm pretty sure y'all not. But, so, we can play it however y'all wanna play it over this.
Well,
Now,
I don't think anybody's playing anything, but
I
we're
do-
sitting
I
here
do-
until
I-
we get, come to a conclusion. I'm not gonna rush through this. Nobody's playing. We're gonna sit here and discuss this so that we can make sure that our neighbors are protected and the county's protected.
No,
So
we're not.
so let's just be patient, Sheldon, and let's discuss this. Please.
We're discussing this, but how much do we have to discuss at this point in time?
Until we're comfortable moving forward.
Okay, all right. Let anybody from the committee, what about this resolution at this point that was not concocted by myself, but put in resolution form by me? What about this resolution we do not understand at this point in time? And this time, year of our Lord AD, January 9th, 2024.
That's a great question. Any other, if there's any other questions, let's flesh them out. I agree with you.
I have a suggestion. You're required to have a public hearing today on all these items. It's in the paper, they're here, no matter what, action or no action. If you're acting on something, have your public hearing, maybe you'll learn something, maybe you can move forward. I mean, you gotta have the public hearing. So, but, you know, may or may not take action, but you gotta have it, so you can get some information, if that's what you're asking for.
Any questions from the table? Are there, all three gated communities are represented tonight? Let's take a brief second to have a representative from each community get up and speak. So I'm assuming that your POA, your board, some of your board members are there, so,
There's a sign-in sheet, they've already signed up. There's a sign-in sheet there. Anybody, everybody.
I know.
Why are you limiting people when you said we're gonna take our time and discuss it? So why are you limiting the people of Hardeman County?
Did I say I was gonna limit it? I said,
You said one
let me
representative.
finish. I said, I'm gonna start with that. I didn't realize there's a sign-up sheet there, so
You're
just.
chairman, you should know.
Oh, I should know.
Yes, sir.
And so,
Did you not know it's a public meeting tonight, sir?
I did not know that the sign-up sheet was on the standing, is what I was referring to. I did not know it was there. So what we are going to do as we start this process, since we already started on the wrong foot, we're gonna make sure that whatever comments that we have are respectful both ways. I'll make myself clear, because if we don't, then we're gonna stop this process. There would be not any disrespect at all. Are we clear? So, I don't mind constructive comments and criticism, but we're not gonna sit here and jab it. That's a road that we're not gonna go down. So, as I said, is there a representative from each, community? Now that I know the sign-up sheet, let's start with, is there a president of?
Can I have a comment?
Yes.
My community, we're divided, there is not one voice.
Okay. Okay, good. Okay, that's good to know. That's good to know. Oh, this is the sheet here? All right, well, Ron Scott. Question, please.
Okay. Let me introduce myself. I'm Ron Scott. I'm the president of POA Grand Valley Lakes. And I appreciate the opportunity to come address a concern that we have in Grand Valley. Grand Valley Lakes is a private subdivision. We have about 3,100 lots of record established in the early 1970s. So can't make it smaller, we can't make it bigger. It is what it is. The POA, the Property Owners Association itself, owns about 750 of those, 1,750 of those lots. And we pay taxes on those lots, although albeit not much, but there's taxes paid. In the past, we have tried to market those lots, and we have stopped. We have stopped trying to market lots right now because of this issue of the half-acre requirement. About 99% of our lots are less than a half acre. So what does that mean for us, Grand Valley? It means this: we sustain ourselves on dues for both just dues and water dues, and then any fees that might be associated with using the lake or the marina or whatever it might be. That's where our money comes from. We get no tax dollars. The struggle we have is the only way we can increase dues is if we sell a lot. If we sell a lot, we get the dues for that lot. And the fact that we were apprised by Jim that, at least in one case, that we didn't meet that, so we had an unsellable lot, or an unbuildable lot. And with an unbuildable, I don't want, so we worked some combinations, or at least we're in the process of working a combination for this gentleman. But the point that I'm making is that I don't want any of them. If our lots are unbuildable, I can't try in good faith to say I can sell a lot to you and you can build them. So that's why we stopped. Which means that if we won't expand our dues, we can expand our dues by 5% a year, and that's it. We can change water dues, but the point is, we've just got 5% that we play with. We're still 0.2% under inflation, or 2% under inflation. The other thing that we struggle with is the county is losing money because if we can't sell them, if we can't get a buildable lot, they can't build a house. They can't build a house. There's no tax revenue. I talked with the county assessor of just as an example. Right now on lots that are undeveloped, we probably pay anywhere from $15 to $20 a year in taxes. A lot that has a 1,250-foot house on it, that's just an average size house, anywhere from $700 to $900 a year in taxes. So the only way we sustain ourselves is sell lots and get the dues in, because we have to pay for our own roads, our own water, any other amenities that we might have in the valley. Any questions? Thank you.
Mr. Harrison?
Get up a little slow, bad knee. Well, thank you for seeing me. I'm George Harrison. I'm just a resident of Grand Valley Lakes, and remember the golf courses too. But I just want to tell you a little bit about what I'm dealing with. Me and my wife and another couple of our best friends, we bought a lot at Grand Valley Lake for investment purposes. Whether we built on it and sold it or not, but we prefer to sell the lot. We are on the lake. People live on both sides of the lake, and I'm short of that half acre. And I've had it measured twice, and it's anywhere from 0.45 of half an acre to 0.4 of a half acre. You know, it just depends on who's wheeling the stick. But irregardless of that, I can't purchase land from my neighbors. You can't do it. You can't subdivide your own land over to somebody else. I'm landlocked. And once again, this lot is worth a lot of money. I missed a sale on it already because of this same thing that we're dealing with tonight. Because the people, I couldn't guarantee them that they could get a variance or anything, and I didn't even know about a variance at that time, to be able to build on it. So he went and bought another lot. But, you know, I'm tied up. I can't do anything. I'm taking signs down. I can't afford to even try to sell it to somebody if they couldn't even build on it. So it really makes no sense. It's kind of like Ron had said, the house that would be built on this particular lot would probably be in the neighborhood of 24, 25, 30,000 square foot home, you know, which would probably bring into you 24, 2,500 a year versus, you know, 150 for tax money. But we have a great community. We do all the requirements that are necessary. We've had no problems with those. We're well aware of them. I've been in Jim's office, I've been in the mayor's office, I guess he's still there. You know, and some of the things that I ran into, I'm not here to bash anybody, but it's getting information is hard. It's like y'all were talking about, is that there seems to be nothing kind of together on this. You know, I've been told that I couldn't get a variance. Why apply for it and why pay a fee if I couldn't get one? Makes no sense at all, none, zero.
Excuse me, sir, you were told you couldn't get a variance?
Yes, sir.
I'm not gonna answer my second question.
Well, you ought to ask it. By golly, I'll tell you. It's an interesting proposition. And when I filled out that variance, where was I gonna take it? I asked, do I bring it back to this office? No, you take it upstairs to the mayor's office. Really? When I took it up there after I filled it out, they said, what are you doing here? They told me downstairs to bring it here. We don't take those. They take them down there. I said, y'all have to battle that one out. I'm not in that one. I'm just trying to get a variance on my property. That's all that I need. And so what you were saying, I don't know how much time they said we had 2 minutes, but y'all were saying about how difficult it is to work this out. What about the other people? We gotta make it fair. I'm with the fair. But what we and these other people in these gated communities, we pay dues. We pay fees to live in those gated communities. And we pay taxes just like the people that are not in those communities. I'm not trying to cheat anybody out of it, but it makes perfectly good sense to me that if you grandfather them we're not having problems. You're still gonna have to have it perked when you get your septic tanks. All of that is still gonna have to be in rules and regulations, and we have to go by them. So it's not like we're stepping out of bounds. I understand Mr. Jim's position, I really do. I don't like it, but I understand it. You know, he told me that if it's not in that book, by golly, he's gotta go by what's in there. Okay, I can believe that. But we have different situations. And I just ask you to look at that and vote for it. These kind of people here, they've done the same thing. They bought a gated communities for a reason. And we have those guidelines. Let us build. Let us pay you more taxes. You'll enjoy it a lot better. The fee was $50, I paid $250 for it. And I guess somebody's got that check or they've cashed it, but I'd like to have back none of that money either, but you keep it. I want the variance. I need to do some of the property, and I appreciate your time.
You are scheduled for a BZA meeting, aren't you?
I'm sorry?
You are scheduled for a BZA meeting.
Well, I am for the next month.
Yes, sir.
But I had to put off from selling the place, you know, because I tried to get in there earlier and on time. But anyway, y'all vote the right way. Y'all are good people, I appreciate it.
Appreciate your comments. So that we will get back on track, and the first two people who spoke, I appreciate everything you said. But yes, let's keep this to 2 minutes, because really what we're trying to find is information that we may not know about, because we all understand what we're doing. We're gonna get to a point tonight where we can get this resolved, I assure you that. So if there's anything that anybody can add to this in terms of something that we may not know versus a testimony of what we're going through, because we understand that. We truly understand that. We just want to make sure that whatever we do tonight resolves the issues that we have before us for you within those gated communities, and the best of our abilities, folk who are not within those communities as well. So, I hope I don't butcher this last name. Is it Fergie or Fergie? Fergie. Yes, sir.
All right, Mr. Eddie, I'm gonna need just a hair over 2 minutes, and I apologize because I am not a good public speaker like these other gentlemen. All right, my wife has written me some really nice things to say tonight and points to get across, but I'm just gonna break it down chapter and verse, what's happening. In our community, and we are a community divided, there is different structures where we can deem camping. What has happened?
Can I be so rude to interrupt?
Yes, sir, go ahead.
Please state the
I'm in
community.
Woodrun subdivision. My name is Kevin Fergie. I am a property owner and a board member. I'm not representing the POA tonight, just some of our landowners and myself. What has happened in our community? Because some people have come in and built $750,000 house, $500,000 house. They want to run off people they deem not to have up to standard property, because we may use it as a recreational place on the weekend, and we may want to have something different down there. So they got Mr. Pierce to come in, nope, doing your job, to be their bully and to do their dirty work. These are two former board members, because they want to run off everybody that they deem not to have stuff up to their standard, because they have came in and overbuilt for the community. And that's all it is. And by y'all not voting for this amendment, all you're doing is allowing the county to do their dirty work for them. That is it. There's been members, officials in this county has come trying to represent people in that community, telling them they're gonna enforce our POA. I don't think the county wants to get in trying to enforce a POA. That's between us. It's members in that community, okay? The zoning official is the jurisdiction is over zoning, not to come in and try to enforce our stuff. All right, there's lots of things that went on for years. All right, community's been there for 50 years. Never asked the county for one load of gravel. We replaced $27,000 worth of culverts in that community last year. County didn't come help us do that. Alright, now the county wants to tell us they gotta approach a setback on a road that they don't own, if we wanted to vote to take that road out. You know what I'm saying? Alright, so what I'm asking, now, you got all these communities where people have bought as an investment property. I'm gonna retire there in Grand Valley Lake or Wood Run, and I've got this lot on the land that the other Mr. Paul said deemed is worth $20,000, assessor property. And I paid property taxes on that $20,000 for years. Because one day I'm gonna build my retirement house there. And now, because people are wanting to get Mr. Pierce in to be their bully, that property is no longer worth $20,000. It may be if your neighbor beside you is needing to buy it to make his retirement home, and that's not doing any good right there. So, but now, when these properties that we've been paying property taxes on $20,000 for years, now that property's worth $1,000 at best. Who's gonna refund our money that we've been paying that extra property? So if the county comes in and hurts our property value, we will have to take action. Now, if that means all these communities getting together, but I mean, somebody has got to be held liable for this. We've never asked the county for a thing. Never. But I understand, this amendment does not take away zoning. It doesn't take away that. It just would loosen up on these small lots to make them where we can proceed forward. And like you said, they are not making any more land.
Ms. Fergie, is anybody that denied you the opportunity for variance on your lot?
Sir?
Has anybody in my office denied you the opportunity to apply for a variance?
No, well, I know there was a bunch of miscommunications between your office. I've talked with you. You know we have. Nobody told him. We got a guy there that, like you said, are building a house on 2 lots. But that's altogether different can of worms. But he's trying to go through the lengthy and expensive process of a subdivision, which is redividing a subdivision, which is hard. Which they could have told him, apply for a variance. You can make him get that done.
I don't know if you can get a variance to build on 2
I guess.
across the property.
That, I mean, this for everybody here. It seems kind of sad. If I own this property and I own this property, why does the county say I can't put my house in the middle of it? You know what I'm saying? There should be able. I mean, sometimes when we're taking regulation, we take them a little bit too far.
The assessor of deeds and called to the state, and because 2 individual parcels may exist upon your sale or unfortunately someone's deceasement, they couldn't split that. Somebody got this parcel and somebody got that parcel, and that dividing line is right down the middle of the house. How do they deal with that? And there's a septic requirement under TDEC that says a dwelling is served by 170 on that parcel.
I understand that. Now, my lot, which I would love to build a small home on one day, doesn't meet the half-acre requirement, but yet I already have a TDEC approved septic system on it. Already, with the paperwork. I can show you. It was put in the 90s. Gives me no trouble. Alright? I've got a big 5th-wheel camper sits on it. If I build an 800 square foot house, I'm not gonna use the bathroom anymore. I'm certainly not gonna wash dishes any more than we do. So why would that septic not be active? Because it is up to residential standards, because we do not have camping zoning in state of Tennessee. I appreciate your time. I know y'all have a hard job, but what this boils down to is we was the one that started. They didn't like some things that was happening, so they wanted to get Mr. Pierce out. And there were some things Mr. Pierce promised them. I'm sorry, Jim. I'm sorry. There was things there was promised. I understand.
Okay, thank you.
Thank y'all. I appreciate it.
Mr. Bagwell?
Kevin's already spoken.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Nolan?
We appreciate your time. We are Ray and Rhonda Nolan, and we own property in the Wood Run subdivision. We feel that this whole issue started with our project. We received word from our association in June that Mr. Pierce was called out to our building site. We had been told by the previous zoning officer that Wood Run was exempt from county zoning. We were told this in April of 2022. We've pulled all the required state building permits and have passed. We also have an existing functional septic system. There has been controversy within our association, and this zoning issue has made things worse. We were told that there can be no permit on any residential lot unless the lot is a half acre. We visited with Mr. Pierce in mid-September, and he told us that we had to combine our two lots and go through the subdivision process. Combining our two lots would not have given us half an acre. We tried to get an accessory building permit, and we're told we could not because we wanted to live there in the future. After months of dealing with this, we've decided we have no desire to live here now. We submitted a zoning permit application on January 2nd of this year, asking once again for a permit to allow us to use the $50,000 building for entertainment and recreational purpose and storage of personal items. We went to the zoning office last Friday, January 5th, to try to get our permit. After an hour and a half of discussion, Mr. Pierce said due to our building having a kitchen and bathroom, he could only give us a permit as a residential structure. This is what we originally asked for, and we're told no because of the small lot. We did not understand the reason the kitchen bathroom made a big difference, but we were willing to do whatever it took to get into compliance with the county. And Mr. Pierce told us after the permit that we could now live there. We still have no intention of living in this building. We still plan on using it for recreational purposes when we're at Wood Run. However, it is nice to know we can stay there for a period of time if we desire. We're not sure if the half-acre requirement issue has been resolved yet or not. This has been a very taxing and nerve-wracking process for us. We think the purpose of this hearing is to grandfather developments like Wood Run and others in the county. We just ask that you vote yes to approve the amendment and resolve this issue. And thank you for your time.
Thank you, sir. Mike? You got 30 seconds. 30. You got 30 seconds. 15, 14, 13, 12, 11, 10.
Grandfather, okay, this amendment, there's one part of it that actually addresses grandfathering, which is basically 302D, which is the new thing in there that says anything that's existing from this day on will be, is what's ours here. We're starting over, as if we've adopted the zoning ordinance today. We don't want to make anything retroactive. That's what the D part is. Mr. Bell's letter says he asked somebody from the public to come up and, you know, to help him do this. The whole question, everybody knew this was going on. He said, how do we fix this so we don't have to worry about dropping this in zoning people's lap and trying to decipher this and nobody knows what's going on. So that's where the language comes from. You're worried about these are, we're talking about gated communities. No, this ordinance addresses all lots of record, September 1993. If it was here, I don't care if it was a quarter acre or 10 acres, a subdivided lot, period, that was registered in the registered deeds office, is exempt from 4 parts, not the zoning ordinance, 4 specific things. In whatever district, all residential districts, R1, FAR, RMH, doesn't matter, all of them. So it is universal to the whole county. If they were there, they're exempt from setback requirements, they're exempt from lot size, lot width, and lot density requirements, just 4. Everything else still applies. So that is what takes this issue and makes it simplified. So if you bought a lot somewhere and you're in FAR requires a minimum 1 acre, and let's say it's a half acre, you now can build on that. Okay, you now can build on it. Period. That's what this trying to, just take that out of the picture. About 4,000 lots, which is 95% of all the undeveloped lots in this county, are in these little gated communities. And 90% of those 4,000 lots are gonna have to come to an individual, have a board meeting, and hear 4,000 potential cases in front of the BZA to get basically a rubber stamp to move forward, which is what this is about. It's not taking away the right to the people, they just won't need to. They come in here and say, hey, I got 0.49 acres. Okay, these other things don't apply in section 1 of this. There's 2 sections. Section 1 is for gated communities with their own public water system, own private roads that have deed restrictions and have a covenant. And that covenant has never been broken. And that doesn't mean just gated communities. There's probably lots out here that Mike Mitchell had an acre he sold to somebody, said, I'm gonna let you have an acre of my 1,000 acres, but you gotta always do this, this, and this. So it doesn't just apply to gated communities, it's county-wide. So that's why it gives you 4 exemptions. If section 2 is, you're gonna get 2 exemptions, because these are for lots of record that have never had these restrictions, or one of these gated communities may have let their covenants lie, and it's been gone, or it's been adjudicated, they had to break it in 10 years somewhere. Once they've lost that's grandfathered, they've been consistent for 50 years. All 3 of these are 50 years old. So they've been consistent for 50 years, but if one of them had lost it, they would only be exempt from 2 provisions in all districts. That would be still minimum lot size and lot width, not the setbacks. Okay, so that's what those 2 things are doing. It's that simple. It's to basically stop having to force poor Mr. Pierce in his office from having to make these decisions on that. He is right. Nobody's ever argued with a half-acre requirement in that. You know, the only discrepancy he and I have ever had is there's more than one option. And you know, and so that's what this is. So the whole purpose of this thing is to not grandfather, but exempt. We're not using the grandfather term, we're exempting lots of record in gated, or any lot of record basically, that has had a restrictive deed and covenant and has maintained that to be able to get 4 provisions. Still gotta meet under 35 feet high, still gotta meet all other requirements, gotta have still TDEC requirements. Ultimately, it comes down to this: TDEC's not gonna give you a septic permit, it doesn't matter what you got. So we don't interfere with them whatsoever. We don't even need to be mentioning their name here. If they can't get an approval, then it doesn't matter if we grandfather the world. So this is a very simple little thing. I know it kind of grew into a mountain out of this little molehill, but I know you just didn't understand that was the purpose of doing this. So there's still the opportunity to appeal. There'll be no reason for these people to appeal. You don't have to worry about potential 4,000 variance appeals coming to the BZA at some point because they want to say, hey, I need to do this. You got to get to it because that's what our law says. So hopefully that cleared up some of your questions. I mean, there's no place this doesn't apply to the whole county. It's just these other people that have been getting smacked by because they hold 9% of these lots. Does that make sense?
2.
I'm done.
Appreciate it.
All right. Yes, sir.
I didn't know there was a sign sheet. Can I speak?
Of course.
Just please state your name.
I call Woodrun, and I'd just like to address the other side of the coin, that I invested hundreds of thousands of dollars into my house based on the zoning and the protected covenants. Why is that being voided? And I'd like to address the $250 fee. If you're gonna waive it for the variances, why did I have to pay $250 to conform to state law? To combine my lots. And I appreciate everything the board's doing, all the conversation and everything. Thank you.
Well, anybody want to be the zoning director?
Of course not.
It ain't fun. They damn sure work out things.
You believe?
All righty, my dear colleagues,
We have before us a resolution. It's time to make some sort of decision, unless there's additional comments by my colleagues at the table. Let's please bring them forth so that we could put this issue to rest. The floor is open for any motion that anyone chooses to put forth.
I mean, we passed the resolution that's in front of us.
Second. All in favor? Raise your hand, all in favor? Ayes have it. Those that, well, maybe we back up. Ms. Well, everybody voted, so ayes have it. Let's go to, give me my agenda. Item C, please.
Yes, sir. This is concerning the zoning resolution amendment regarding authority clause of chapter 1 and enforcement and chapter 20 of the zoning resolution of Hardeman County, Tennessee. And this is being brought by Commissioner Bobby Wright. And it's basically what's going on here. He's requested, and I think we've got that before. Yes. His proposal for the amendment. That supplies the logic behind his call for the amendment. And basically, it's clearing up some of the current language that we have that's found in chapter 1 on authority. Of course, at the time the resolution was prepared, they have 119 sections, or 19 sections, apropos of this particular section of TCA, which is Title 13, Chapter 7, Section 101 through, it used to stop at 115. Well, the first part of this amendment says except, which is the Latin to be to talk about the unlimited number that would come in sequential order. So basically, any other, I guess, section of TCA that the legislative body, would be the state legislative body, would enact, it's already covered. So that's the first simple amendment. When you go to section 2, it deals with the zoning compliance officer, and basically one has authorities there. It basically says, in case any building, and I'm on the bottom of page 8, in case any building or structure is erected, constructed, reconstructed, repaired, converted, or maintained, or any building, structure, or land is used in violation of this resolution, the zoning compliance officer, and the new language is found in red, and upon approval of the legislative body by a majority vote, or any other appropriate authority, and upon the approval of the legislative body by a majority vote, unless imminent harm to public or welfare exists, or any adjacent to the neighboring property owner who would be damaged by such violation, in addition to other remedies, may institute injunction, mandamus, or other appropriate action proceeding to prevent the occupancy or use of such building, structure, or land. And in simpleton terms, to basically sum this up, okay, that used to be in TCA, it used to end in this particular section at 115, it's 119 now. In case there's any subsequent portions added to that particular section, what they did was put the Latin phrase on that to it be all inclusive of what's to come in that sequential order after that, whether it's 119, 120, whatever. Section 2 deals with, in case, when there are cases when Mr. Pierce has to go out and do a stop work order or provide a writ of mandamus or get an injunction because of some construction that, in his viewpoint, is out of kilter or not in conformance to the zoning resolution as printed. What this does is, before he can go out and do that injunction or cite them to court, basically, that he has to ascertain approval from the county commission unless there was imminent harm to the public being affected.
So what happens in the meantime?
That's a $64,000 question.
So we have staff that is competent to make these decisions. But before they can make the decisions and take action, they've got to get approval from a 16-member body in order to do it.
Well, if that 16-member body is willing to give the zoning compliance officer or whoever is basically gonna cause them to have to spend the county's money
Yeah?
in court,
But what-
especially if they stand a good chance of losing.
But why,
There has to be some kind of,
why would they stand a good chance of losing if we're going by the court?
well, that's the one thing, the good business is being employed, yeah.
So that's,
And if you're in conformance with Tennessee code attitude.
right.
But as long as everything is adhered to, there shouldn't be any issue. But if there's, if everything hasn't been up to snuff as far as the full enforcement of the ordinance in light of Tennessee code attitude, germane to any section that's applicable in TCA, relative to your zoning resolution in any regard, form, or fashion. Okay, if the office is citing someone in the court, all this does is make them aware and gives them the opportunity to say yes or no.
What's the process now, Jim? How
Before
would
they
you
have
go
to
about,
spend any money.
how would you go about doing this?
First, when you find a violation, you contact the individual, send them a letter, and identify what the violation is. Make every opportunity to work it out, resolve it, tell them how they're not compliant, and offer a remedy of how they could become compliant. At which point that don't happen. The one case we've been to court on so far, that individual chose not to get a permit and it wasn't moving the building, so there was at an impasse. So we turned the situation over and local resolutions to our county attorney, which is Mr. Conner. We let him review it for merit and for just cause. He determines whether or not he will hear that to a judge and files that for him.
So we have an attorney who is a legal expert. So before any lawsuit that we put forth, our attorney has agreed.
It is presented to the attorney. He makes the determination.
Makes the determination.
That's correct.
So, and again, let's discuss this. So if we do this, we adopt this resolution and we go through that process, our elected officials meet once a month. So from the time in which you give an injunction or whatever you pass out into that board meeting, what theoretically happens?
I guess it would just be in perpetual. You know, just wait.
How do we clean that up and make sure, and you may have, John, I may be jumping the gun, but how do we make sure that until our commissioners meet to agree or disagree with this, that if Eddie's out there just going haphazardly building something, he's not allowed to continue on for 30 or 45 days during that time period?
Well, my thing is this, you know, the zoning compliance officer must be given an opportunity to do his job. So if anything is in violation that's salient or visible from the public, and he's made aware of it or he sees it, he has his opportunity to do his job. He goes out and stop work order on what's going on. Now, if the matter calls for deliberation within a court of competent jurisdiction, Then at that point, what I construe the ordinance to do, the resolution to do is, at that point, if he's going to the court for judicial review, then before he does that, he has to ascertain the approval from the county commission for him to give him that authority to do that, because they're given the charge to spend the county's money. Otherwise, you know, everything will be the same. He'll go out there and put a stop work on it, hey, you can't do that, and so forth. And if they want to carry the matter any further, from that point, it's incumbent upon the zoning compliance officer to tell, the owner of record, or whatever going on there, that he has to come before the Board of Zoning Appeals, or she has to come before the Board of Zoning Appeals and state their case as to the reason of why the building is not in conformance to the zoning.
Mr. Moore, I'm Mr. Bobby Wright, I brought the amendment to the board. May I speak?
I will definitely recognize you. Give me 1 second, if you don't mind. Any, appreciate it.
That's pretty much it in a nutshell, man.
How does this impact, from your perspective, Jim, your office?
Well, we've only been in court once. We have a couple of citations pending judicial review now. First of all, any violation that is found, I gotta tell you, there is months and months of attempt to resolve the issue with the individual. At which point in time, it doesn't seem like there's gonna be a resolve and compliance with it. Again, it's turned over to Dale. And with our county attorney and his workload, that takes a good 30 to 60 days to review. He comes back many times with questions and looks for other case study and case law and court decisions that's been made across the state. Should it go to court, what is the likelihood of this ruling by prior decisions? And we have that conversation, and then we elect if we want to continue on and go forward. Again, all the while, if said complainant becomes compliant, we drop it. And the one we have now is just they elect not to come compliant. And there is, to my knowledge, we have 4 to 5 that are with Mr. Connor now. So I know more court date.
So how's this resolution gonna change?
It's just going to elongate the process. And I would imagine if I was a citizen looking out there, if I lessen the responsibility of a department, and I take my chances with 16 arguing the point, then I will with 1. That's just my personal opinion.
Any additional questions?
Jim, what kind of out of compliance were
It varies, Jim. There's people that just don't want to get permits. A big issue we have in the county is putting an accessory building in front of an existing dwelling. People take the stance of my land, I'll do what I want to. With the last year, we've had an enormous amount of people wanting to live in campers. That doesn't meet our resolution because it talks about wheels and ditches and foundations that dwellings should be on. And you have a lot of occurrences like that. You have when the Blue Oval development and the insurgence of people moving to West Tennessee, you had multiple lots across the county that people drove multiple campers up and tried to set up little camper trailer parks. Those are not zoned in Hardeman County. And then you've had more than a dozen occurrences the past year where people have gone out and bought these ready-made sheds and have them delivered in without a permit and want to have a unlicensed electrician come in and wire them and have JEA or Baldwin Electric go out and set a service pole, and they want to live with them in a dwelling. Well, that's against state fire marshal rules because they have not been manufactured in an approved environment and got the official stamps. So that's the one that we currently right now have judicial review. you have a situation over in Whitewood, where you have a concerned citizen that's come in, and she has a lot in the rear of the parcel that has a lot of easement that gets into it. That's how she assesses her property. The adjacent landowner around her has parked hundreds of cars and boats and scrap diesels and trucks and buses. She is reaching her maturity age and has another elderly individual that lives with them. And her concern is, should she have a medical situation, that medical apparatuses, ambulances, fire trucks and things could not get to her. We went out and measured, and it will be difficult. If a fire truck couldn't get there, an ambulance, it would be difficult, and once they get there, their only option will probably be back all the way out 200-foot driveway. The individual that's placed all the junk cars and trucks and trailers there is not only has it on his parcel, he has it on the right-of-way and the two approaching parcels also. There's been multiple attempts to reach the parcel owner by the residents of tax record, but thus far, serving of that citation has not been delivered by our county.
And real quick, the 4 or 5 people that are in violation now, how do that, I mean, you go out and look for those, they report to you?
The majority of them are reported. Some I see in driving around of the county. I try to monthly touch all 4 different quadrants of the county. But there's been hundreds that's been resolved. Yeah, findings that have been resolved. People have done the right thing, or tell you, we didn't know we had a zoning resolution, or we didn't know we had to get a permit. Yeah, 95% of the people don't like it, but they become compliant. The other 5% is that criteria that tends to elongate and may come to a point where you need a judicial review.
Any additional comments? At this time, let's open up for public comment, and I've got Mr. Harrison. George?
That's me. Well, y'all know I'm George Harrison, and the only thing that I really want to say about that is that, and y'all are trying to work this out, is that make this kind of seamless for someone going through this variance deal and getting building permits and all of that. I know that my experience, I said a few things about it when I went up there. Mr. Pierce, at the time, I found out that I needed a variance, could I get a variance for him, we couldn't find it at that time, I'm sure where that was. But I'll come back, and I did, and I think it's Lily. Anyway, Miss Lily helped me when I came back, and and I asked for the variance for him, and she's the one that indicated that I wouldn't get it. But I thought maybe she was on the committee, and she wasn't. But I got the form, went up to the office. They didn't know how much the fee was up there. She wasn't sure what the fee was downstairs. So maybe just streamline this thing a little bit where you're sure what you're, kind of doing. I'm along the lines that those of us that talk about being grandfathered, why should we pay a fee and go before a variance committee? Like I said, 4,000 of us coming in here loading up. We wouldn't get out of here until tomorrow morning sometime, each time. And, I think y'all people, ladies, can straighten that out amongst yourselves and let us have a little grandfather and everybody go home from the dance happy. I think that's the bottom line out of it. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Walker?
I said, why am I not doing my bill before public speaking on this? I've asked to speak on behalf of my amendment, and you ignored me and calling for public.
Well, first of all, sir.
Yes, sir.
One, I had no idea, sir, who you were.
I've done said it twice.
Well, I didn't hear you. And you bring it to a point where, that I'm supposed to go by this list here. I had no idea, sir, of your title and what you do for the county, and that you're an elected official, until Mr. Shelton came over and whispered in my ear. And I said, yes, did I not, sir, that I will give you the opportunity to speak, sir? I will.
Okay, fair enough.
Okay, is that,
But
is that fair?
thought
So
it
you,
should be,
so
since
you,
I brought the amendment, people should hear why I brought it before they had.
well,
their
until
comment. But
I
since
knew
you're
he
running the
was.
show, I understand. Go
Well,
ahead.
evidently you don't, sir, because you're sitting trying to pick a fight the whole night.
No, sir.
So up until 30 seconds ago,
I'm taking it for the people.
well, so am I. So everybody on this board is, so you're no different than anybody else here. And so let's make sure that we're all on the same page. I'm not trying to pick a fight or argue with, but I'm not gonna sit here and allow you to allow this same
I just
road
asked
to
the
go.
question, sir.
Well,
Carry on.
Mr. Shelton just brought it to my attention. I promise you, sir, out of respect for who you are and what you do for this community, I will give you an opportunity to speak. Give me, if you don't mind.
Carry on.
Thank you. Mr. Walker, please come on.
How you doing? Alright, this is Tom. I don't care if this works. Well, everybody's speaking loud enough so they can hear. My name is Andre Marshall. I'm speaking on behalf of Marcus Walker, just for literacy purposes, okay? I, Marcus Walker, was issued a warning letter in the spring and accused by the zoning man of operating a junkyard and a business from my home on Old Toon Road. I had a discussion with this man in June, and I told him I own a car lot in Henderson and bought vehicles and delivered them to my house so I could work on them in my spare time. My business is in Chester County, MJ and Ties Automotive, not Hardeman County. I live in Hardeman County. I did clean up and relocate all but a few vehicles from my property, even though I have the right to keep as many old cars on my private property as I want. This man has filed a lawsuit against me in October, claiming I have to get a business license to work on cars at my house and to run a junkyard. I do not and have never ran a junkyard business. I will not say anything else about this other than I will be countersuing Hardeman County because of his actions. I recently made contact with Commissioner Wright. I understand why he can't discuss this matter, but I am here to support what it is he is trying to do. I do not live very far from the zoning man. Maybe he just wants to clean up the area. Maybe he just, feels some way about his home. But as an individual, I feel singled out. If this man has this much power in the county, I think he needs to be restrained or at least have some permission from the county before coming after the citizen and suing us. Vote yes and watch whoever is given this type of power. Thank you.
Mr. Walker has does not have a business license as verified with Tony, court clerk. He stated he has one in Henderson, that is for conducting business in Henderson. If you look at the definitions in the resolution book, we talk about where you can have a salvage yard and the number of vehicles, where the state defines it as 5 or more that are titled in your name. So that's what I told Mr. Walker. He can have 5 there that are titled in his name, and he is compliant. More than that, he has admittedly said that he is running a business, and that is running a business out of your dwelling with doing X number of value with the state is illegal without a business license.
Commissioner Bell.
Right.
Commissioner Wright, I'm sorry.
Thank you for letting me speak. I'm Commissioner Bobby Wright. I take offense to the chair saying that we should not micromanage any office. We represent Hardeman County as commissioners. We're not here to tell him how to run his office, but to how to be fair and do justice and what procedures would be carried out in day-to-day process. So if the citizens' rights are not being done, they come to us as their representatives and ask us for help.
That's fair. I agree.
Jim has gone by the book most part and still not given their due rights of born of appeals or variances on most cases. I'm not here with this amendment to take any power away from the zoning compliance officer. That's not my place. My place is to protect the county from lawsuits. We have 4 or 5 that I pulled at Chancery Court a couple weeks ago. Sent them to Dale and asked Dale, there's some problems with these. And our attorney replied back in email saying, yes, we've got to change some things. That's why I'm trying. We get sued all the time. We're not here to be suing people. Well, that's not what the county's for. The county's for helping in every way we can to help these people build their houses, run their property like they should within the ordinance. There's some changes that need to be made. But they have the right for due process. And I don't think we should give one person all that authority to sue on behalf of the county, and we, the county commissioners, don't know what's going on. Because guess who has to answer for it? Not the zoning compliance officer. It's the county commission. Why did you let this happen and bring a lawsuit against us? You mentioned schooling. We all need to be schooled more on everything. I think it's required by everybody to have so much hours. I think it's required by Jim to have so many hours. Don't know if any of you have it or not, but it's required. And it would be good. My first part of my resolution was anything that comes down from the state legislature, add it to our book. Make it accessible to the public. When they ask for it, give it to them. When they can't get their variance, tell them why. Give them the solution. If they're not satisfied, give them the BCA form and says, here, this is what you do. Do I agree with $250? It's a little high. I agree. If they win, do they get the $250 back? I like to ask that question. Or do we just keep it and say, well, we filed, yeah, you won, but thank you for the $250. There's just a lot of questions. That's why I don't think nothing against Jim Pierce, the zoning compliance officer. Most things right on target, but I just don't like to see. I don't care if it was John Blow out of New York City. I just don't think one person should have that much power over the county to get the county in a lawsuit when there's 16 people up there to represent the county. Thank you.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman.
Just 1 second, sir, please. Just 1 second. Ms. Samantha Gardner.
My name is Samantha Garner. Sorry. I don't know what's wrong with my voice. So I recently got in touch with the county commissioner regarding issues with the zoning officer and informed him of my concerns. I asked him who hired this person and where his authority. I appreciate Commissioner Wright's taking my call, and he told me he was uncomfortable discussing it. I got a letter from the zoning office on April 17, 2023 regarding using campers on my property. The officer would also drop by my house occasionally, sometimes to discuss our dogs and often just to make his presence known. He's also sent TDEC to our property and for waste outcroppings. I met with the mayor and the officer on April 18th, 2023 to discuss this matter in conversations that have occurred between myself, my husband, and the zoning officer.
Can I represent? We've got a attorney-client privilege meeting that I have to go to because of the lawsuit. So,
excuse me, please. Yes, sir. Thank you. Thank you.
I am the officer's neighbor, and I live less than a half a mile, maybe even a quarter mile from the officer. I asked for a copy of the zoning regulations from the officer, and I did not get one until yesterday when I came in. On November 6th, we were denied a permit, 2023, sorry. We were denied a permit because the zoning officer was out of office, and it said that he needed to inspect the property and our septic tank. That night, we began leveling the lot, and the officer came to our property and ordered us to dig up the septic tank. That evening, we began the septic tank to prove to him it was there, although concerns were brought up that we were digging at night, and we've already provided proof that from the state that it was installed correctly in 2000. We hit a water line while under the instruction of the officer. When asked if the county was going to pay for it, he said the county will not pay for anything. And then he stated, and I quote, "It's getting late. I will just say I saw it, and that stays between us." On the following morning, November 7th, 2023, we were finally able to obtain a permit for a trailer on the property. We now know he had no authority to make us perform this digging. We actually broke state law by not calling 811 under his direction and demands. The zoning officer sued us by filing an injunction on behalf of Hardeman County. The injunction that was filed referenced Chapter 3.12, which is for manufactured homes, not travel trailers. We have every reason to believe we will win our case. If the county is going to hire this type of person as a zoning enforcement officer, then Commissioner Wright's amendment definitely needs to be approved and adopted.
Mike?
Okay, I'm not really going to speak to the issue. Commissioner Wright made it quite clear why he's bringing this. I didn't have anything to do with that, other than the suggestion that when he asked if he was going to do this, I said, let's kind of clean up 13.7.101 in under authority. What I'm going to talk to you though is about procedure of why, what you're doing here now. I mean, y'all are weighing out this evidence and all this. We got a sitting commissioner and have two have brought issues that they know are something that the county commission wants to deal with quickly. That's why they brought it and didn't let it originate here. So 13.7.105 is why we're here. We're having this public hearing on each of these items. They can't do anything up there until it comes from here, okay? So you don't even have to approve or disapprove. You have to give approval, disapproval, or offer a suggestion and send it up. I'm just gonna recommend, I'm sure they'd like to hear your approval, let you understand why they're doing it. They just feel like, hey, we're gonna have to pay for something. We at least ought to know it's coming, or at least have the county attorney warn them. I think that was the story I got. They didn't know there was action taken. So I think you ought to just, either approve it or, send it to them with nothing else so they can take action on it in the February meeting. They can't address it in February anyway. That's the earliest they can get to it. But, so I just think, it doesn't require your approval if you just want to shoot it up to them. But, I just think you need to go and move it to them because they both asked for these things to resolve these issues among themselves. They are the governing body. We're an elected board. It's not a final decision. It's just something that's required in technicality to come through y'all to do it. I hope I can clear that up.
Yeah, and we understand that. And I'm going to say this before we have further dialogue as related to this. It's our job as this board to have candid, open conversations for an issue, against an issue, just to make sure that when we move forward on an item, we have heard every possible scenario and option out there. Some of this stuff you may not like, some of it you're fine with, but that's our responsibility as this board, so that we put things on the table so that you as our neighbors appreciate transparency. You cannot come to a meeting that we've had and walk out of here and say, you know what, they tried to cover it up, they tried to rush through this and didn't discuss these items whether you like it or not. And as is part of my responsibility to ask a million questions of Sheldon and Jim and encourage our colleagues to have an open dialogue so that we can make these decisions. And we appreciate your input. We really do. And so, which is the reason why, you know, we voted in the affirmation of item B. We're gonna get to these issues, but we're going to sit here and have an open, candid dialogue as much as possible so that there's no rock unturned. When we come to these meetings, especially on these very heated issues, very important issues, it's gonna take time to get through it. And we ask questions, we do things for a certain reason, to provoke conversation and dialogue. Okay, so be patient. Thank you so much, and I appreciate it. My dear colleagues, any additional comments as relates to this particular item?
I have a couple of questions. The way it is now, you don't just go out and see somebody. You go for consultation with the county attorney.
After much deliberation.
Right.
With the
That's
individual.
last resort.
That's right.
And this resolution that Commissioner Bright is bringing forth would require, it really is just adding that it goes before the county commission to vote to where a lawsuit would be brought forward.
Yeah, I don't know that we've sued anybody. We asked for judge ruling on what should be done. And the one case that has went before Judge Cole had no monetary, law, judgment for it. They told the individual he had to be compliant with state right-of-way requirements and meet our setbacks, and he did have to restruct a, building and get it out of the right-of-way. That's the one judicial review that we have heard. There's not been a lawsuit against anybody.
Right, you're not suing anybody for money, you're just trying to get them in
Compliance.
compliance with law.
Right, no monetary.
Any additional?
Are any current lawsuits against the county from any of your discussions?
I hope, none that have been filed under that the mayor made me aware of, or Mr. Connor. There was 4 for the zoning department when I came into it, and we mitigated those away. Worked out a compromise with all the individuals and the lawsuits resolved.
Commissioner Wright, you indicated that you spoke with an individual, I think one of the county's representative, and asked him to look at 5 lawsuits.
That's our attorney and mayor.
And
I'm sorry, not attorney. Our attorney for the county, Mr. Conger.
Okay.
And he did, and I've got it in my email, it says that there was some things that didn't apply to these lawsuits that had to be redone, and that he took all responsibility for not being right.
Okay. So that's part of that process as well, right?
I believe it to be so.
So basically, there was a.
If I wouldn't have caught it, they would have went to court with
That's
it.
what I was going to say. So basically, there's not been any communication with the commissioners at all previously regarding lawsuits.
Right, yes, sir.
And
Once that, in any situation, like with the one that we did, go to court for Judge Cole's ruling, was that not briefed in, Commissioner client privilege meetings during that deliberation?
I don't particularly remember it, but it didn't happen.
Yeah, I'm not privy to those meetings, so. Bobby, do you remember?
I do not recall that. I cannot say yes or no, but I do not recall that. Only thing that we do in attorney-client is what's being, who's suing us. I never remembered anything that we took action against some citizen.
Yeah, when the county attorney, briefs us on lawsuits, he should be able to do that at our,
I may be wrong, but some of that was the process once it entered into.
It should be, right.
Legislative.
Look, from a commissioner to a department head, let's say first, gentlemen, that we enter into this process and the commission decides that we're not gonna move forward with the lawsuit. What happens in that scenario? I think that's worth discussing. What happens if you, as a body, decide we're not gonna move forward with the lawsuit? What happens?
I would ask Mr. Wright, he asked
Well,
this.
well, my thing is, how we picking and choosing? We have thousands and thousands of same situations all over the county. So how are we picking and choosing? That's my thing. We've got to get our legislation done where everybody's on the same playing field. Right now, we're picking on this person, we're going over and picking on that person. We're not picking, but picking and choosing. So the remedy of it is, that'd be a good question for, I think, Shelton Murray. What is the good remedy?
Or anybody, I mean, Shelton, let's start at the table.
Remedy you're going to
If our department decides they want to move forward with a lawsuit, they submit it as it stands right now to the county attorney. It then must go to the commission. The commission votes nay. So at what happens once the commission decides they don't want to move forward with the lawsuit?
If the commission decides they don't want a lawsuit, it's a stalemate, nothing happens. If he's out there issuing a stop work order, and there's a stop work order, it's a cease and desist, until they're told otherwise, to let them do what they want to do.
So the
All this will do is preclude them, prohibit them from going
To
to
court.
citing them in court without the notification.
That's what I'm getting at. If the department decides that there is an issue, there's still an issue, we just won't proceed with legal ramification at that point.
That's correct, that's all things we do.
So another question, if you have individuals all over the county that are living in campers, that we have correspondence on file with. If you have multiple, junkyards that have been established, which I've had commissioners come to me and ask me to address it, was my finding. They brought, the situation to me. If you have those in all areas, address those, and say that the 16 don't align in their agreement that night and we don't have a majority vote, what happens to those situations where individuals living in a camper, you made everybody else be compliant, and you have parcels throughout the county and all quadrants that are established in junkyards, and that are against the safety and welfare of their neighbors. The situation over in Whitehall on that road, and Sheldon's point, if you issue a stop work order because you can't build it just close, you need to get back out of the setback, and we elect not to go and get a judicial ruling, they go back to work and they build it tomorrow, like Mr. The other individual did, what do we do then?
Well, again, you bring up a point, but I want to answer another point before we move forward. We're forgetting about the part where it says, any other appropriate authority and upon the approval of the legislative body by a majority vote, unless imminent harm to public safety or welfare exists or exists. So when there's imminent harm to the public and or safety, the public, imminent threat to their health, safety, or welfare, basically that's null and void.
They can overrule the
That's
commission's
correct.
vote.
Who's they?
Whoever was proceeding, who's gonna make that determination if it is,
Then it becomes very touchy. You guys say no,
is in danger?
he's gonna say the hell.
But I mean, of all the, I mean, you said thousands, but we're talking about dozens, maybe hundreds at the most. Saying 95%, I mean, we was talking about 4 or 5 that are not getting in compliance after they've been notified by your office, right?
We
So-
probably had over 60 people in the last year, identify living in trailers that we had told we don't, facilitate camper life in Hardeman County. Probably 55 of them have become compliant or moved to another county, sold the camper, started building a house. There's still some that we're investigating because we have to prove residency. Believe it or not, sometimes people don't tell you the truth. They say, oh, we only come here on the weekend, but we got a mailbox here, and we got a utility pole here, and we're applying for a septic permit, and they're doing everything to establish residency, but they don't live there. So we have a couple of those that we're investigating. It takes a long time. We've been investigating one out on Peavine Road and one out in Hickory Valley for almost 6 months trying to prove. We've contacted the sheriff to have the officers, when they ride by in their rides throughout the week and at nights, to verify presence so we can try to establish that they are indeed living there. And we tell everybody else in this county that you need to build a house. You need to meet these requirements for foundation. You need to meet this requirement for roof and roof pitch. You need to be this far back. And then you have people that drag a trailer in here, and I understand that maybe that's what they can afford to do, but that is not what that book allows for. And we've applied it all over this county. We haven't picked and choose anyone.
So it takes 6 months to investigate. What's the big deal waiting another month to talk to the commission and see their items? And why are we using police to stalk people or find out things when the police, our sheriff's department, is shorthanded?
Just in that way, there's somebody else verification that there is a presence there, and off arrows at the night was what was hoped. That when we presented the case to whomever, be it Connor or the judge, asked, can you definitely prove that there is a residency here? I can say yes. At this time, this visit, this date by me or by county deputy, we have verified that multiple cars are there in the middle of the night. Their mail is delivered there every day. They're there 7 days a week.
What I'm just saying, my resolution is for the commission to have final say what money we spend for a lawyer to file
And for the record,
complaints.
the money I spent so far was in my budget for legal fees.
I think, with all due respect, Commissioner, our work, we completely understand your resolution.
Okay.
We just, again, we're trying to discuss the what ifs.
Yes.
Again, because even you said, we need to talk to Sheldon.
Yes.
And we still trying to figure out if the commission votes nay, he indicated that it becomes a standstill. So then you've got my neighbor, Mr. George here, who's been getting a cease and desist. So basically, in his eyes, he just lost a lawsuit because he can't do anything. He can't do nothing because he's issued a cease and desist. Well, excuse me, I'm in the country. He chose you to stop. And you gotta stop. So what happens in those regards, checks and balances, I'm all for it. I have them in all my companies. I understand checks and balances. So, does this need?
So what about the other side, of course, that when we get to the point that we do what Mr. Wright has proposed here, we go to the county commission and we vote, and it's not approved to go forward, and we get to that stalemate point and nothing happens. What about the other side? What about the people that are complaining and asking me to do something, and I didn't oppose the regulations of those books? When they have told me, you can ask the two ladies standing above my counter, you either go out and you do what your book says and what you do to everybody else, or we're suing this county for not opposing it to everybody. So you've got those lawsuits coming.
The other 55 people got in.
That's right.
These are saying, they don't.
We're worried about a lawsuit with one that won't become compliant. What about the 95% that become compliant that are then gonna take offense to the fact that we didn't hold them compliant?
Well, I know
That's
that,
not me, it's a commission.
That's right. And I'll make sure, I have my documentation and.
Yeah, because it becomes a liability to the commission at that point.
Well, let me say this, Jim. His job is very contentious. Zoning is very, very contentious. Lily and Kim will concur heard that they deal with a lot of stuff, and most of the time, the people are not happy. They, you know, they come in there, they're not gonna be, for whatever reason, whether it's, doesn't matter. It doesn't matter.
Christmas cards.
And I will say this is Jim's, I think he does not, and Kim and Lily don't get paid enough money to deal with the crap they deal with. But it is necessary in our county to have zoning. We all want zoning. We got to have zoning, because I mean, while we all think we can do whatever we want on our land, it just doesn't work like that. It does not, that's not the real world we live in. So, and Jim knows I will support him, and I do. But I do say, I completely agree with what Commissioner Wright says. The county commission, in my opinion, has the checkbook. They have the checkbook to write the checks that are brought before. And you know, they are elected officials. We are not. We are appointed committee members. They have constituents they have to answer to, they have to run. They too don't get enough money to deal with the stuff they deal with. So, my opinion, and again, I will do anything for Jim, and I will support that office to, you know, to the end. I believe in him, I believe in what he does. But I do think that we do need some check and balances that occur and some, you know, that go through. That protects Lily, Jim, and Kim in order, and it also protects the county. You know, like Jim says, if something occurs, a lawsuit comes into play, it does not, hey, that's gonna be on the county commission. I mean, it is what it is. You know, I don't, by no means, I know this can kind of, you know, if we vote to send this with a positive review, and that's all, as Mike said, that's all we're doing. We're sending it either this or this. I mean, the county commission's gonna act either way. And, you know, like I said, you know, I know it's kind of, it's a potential, you know, it would be me too. It would, you know, if you take pride in what you do and then you have to answer to somebody that you had to, it's just human nature for your ego to be scuffed. I'm sorry, you know, Jim, if you feel it that way. I don't think that was Commissioner's right intent in doing this. But I do think there's proper checks and balances that has to go into play that protects everybody, and especially the county and its constituents. My opinion.
So, any additional comments?
Well, as a commissioner, I would say that, I think that's, in my opinion, I think it's dipping too much into the whole micromanagement thing. This, you know, Jim is not out here suing people. He's just asking for a judge to review it after they have refused to come in compliance. It's like the judge is giving a second opinion. You think the commission should have to vote before it goes before a judge for review? Everything that Jim comes up with, after he's consulted with our county attorney, I think that's too much. I mean, that's my, I would not give a positive recommendation for this resolution.
Why would we not go on and pass this and let it come before y'all to make your final decision with all 16 of your unions?
But it's not a final decision. If we vote that, we disagree that it should go before the judge, then, it basically.
No, I'm not saying that. I'm saying if we vote for it to go for the recommendation.
I agree.
and then
I don't,
do it.
I like what Mike Mitchell said, we can send it up. If we vote, with a majority for a positive recommendation, then we can give it a positive recommendation, but I don't give it a positive recommendation, is what I'm saying.
But y'all can send it up with no
We
recommendation.
can send it up
And then let them-
review without any recommendation from us.
That is one option.
And y'all still have the opportunity to vote on
Vote
it.
yea or nay. Because we still have a public hearing there.
So why is it next week? Any additional questions? Well, we have two opposing views on how we should move forward with this issue. Irregardless, I think it needs to be discussed amongst you and Commissioner Wright's colleagues. I think it's warranted. If it's something that the commission and the county decides they want to do, then so be it.
Well, I mean, we should still open it up.
Oh, no, we're going to. I'm just making, the obvious statement. So we have two opposing views. We need to have a motion and vote.
I'll make a motion that we send it up to positive.
All in favor? Raise your hand, please.
I say.
Let me second, I'm sorry. All in favor, raise your hand. Thank you. So we got 4 and those against? 4-1. Motion is approved. Item D, sir. Excuse me, yes, we can do that. Give us 5 minutes to do whatever it needs to be done.
So when y'all in Jackson, tell us they got 1 o'clock.
No, we were Jackson. We had training today.
I would never disrespect you. I would never.
Right there in the Southwest Tennessee Republic. Exactly. Right across the street.
Tom, does Tom work?
Yeah. Y'all Tom. He probably did. Yeah. Yeah. You gotta love Tom. He's a good guy.
So that's the difference, that's the difference between a lawsuit and it's still an actual fight.
I love their, everybody got over 4,000 people.
So it must be true.
Mr. Sheldon, since you brought all this stuff to us, can we finish the next one in 2 minutes?
Yeah, you make it, I propose that, so you just speak it yourself.
I didn't mean to be contrite. I just wanted to make sure that we have these down.
This is another way to do it.
Everybody's safe. Just stuff on the cover. You're our representative to them, and said, no. We dealt, we said, all right, we dealt. It's a restaurant.
There is. Prior to it, you say places.
Everybody likes it all. Y'all think we threw There again, no communication.
Jim, you got $250 for him?
Cause I ain't got it. But I think you wanna tell him and the other 1,000 people that did it the right way, right, the right thing.
I agree.
Now, circumventing for everybody else, if they don't.
Thank you. I like it. I follow what the law was. I do
And did we not tell you what the process was? You beat you down about it?
Are now not effective.
I agree with you.
You know, it's like, you'll hear it at the county commission and whatever I got to do, it's like 30 years of law.
I'm sorry. Sir? I gotta get out. This is yours.
Everybody's down, we'll rub.
5 minutes ago. Where's Shelley go? Just online. He may be in line. This is the top of the line. You're welcome.
You're doing a good job.
They did. They give us some. What y'all doing?
That ain't no
Ain't nothing but cholesterol.
All right, it's 6:40, and we've given Shelton approximately 45 seconds on item D, and we're gonna let all our go home and just get there.
Basically, this was, these two options, basically started with Mr. Shelton. We basically did the thing as far as the whereas and stuff like that, put in the resolution form. But these are needed definitions, that are missing currently from our, zoning resolution document. They give, definitions for building coverage as far as the book, county environmentalist, density, hearing or public hearing, planning commission, public utility, right of way, site plan, sketch or scale plan, use permitted on the field, usable floor area, utility, variance, zoning compliance officer. The second deals with, the section 2 there, deals with basically access to public services. And it states there that, chapter 14, provisions governing restricted industrial districts, 14.12 general standards, for the restricted industrial district, section 8 be deleted, and the following language be added, and it just says that, access to public services. The district shall be located on parcels or lots where public water is located or where approval and provisions for public water exist. Access to public sewage shall not be required. However, approval from the county environmentalist or Tennessee Department of Environment and Conservation, just keep that, shall be required before the granting of any rezoning request. And then it talks in section 3, chapter 18, procedures and requirements for site plan review. Section 18.02, contents of site plan. 18.02A, that the following text, and it talks about basically requiring a survey for site plan review requirements. Basically re-emphasizing what was being asked for a site plan admission is concerned, not just somebody taking out a piece of paper and drawing out by hand what they intend to do, what they intend to purpose. So with that, that's pretty much it with that particular, and there's a second option there. And basically, the only difference is with those from the previous option 1, that the section 3 has something germane to 14.01 when it deals with permitted uses. And basically it says that chapter 14 provisions governing restricted industrial districts, 14.01, uses permitted for the restricted industrial district, section J be deleted, and the following be added. And basically, as uses permitted, J, utilities, with the reference of the number 48, which has been derived from the standard land use code and manual, and is limited to electric utilities, gas utilities, water utilities, and irrigation. And then section 4 reads, just like the previous option did, requiring a survey and thus and so forth regarding the site plan. And I think all this is being introduced in light of the power plant resolution that was forwarded up to the county. And this is just was some needed definitions that were needed prior to that. And basically, there's 2 options there in case in case the resolution that's been currently sent regarding power generation plants that's sitting with the county commission now. In case that is defeated or not adopted, then we have some resolutions here to clean up our zoning resolution to that effect.
So we really need to approve both of them, not just
Yes,
one.
yes, sir.
Staff recommendation? Any comments, some staff comments, I'm sorry?
Well,
Total concurrence. Concurrence with it.
the 10-year moratorium needs to go up.
I believe it expires in February.
Wednesday. Next Wednesday.
Next Wednesday.
Yeah, 17th. Huh?
It was signed in February, or when it was recorded.
Yeah, it's supposed to, well, that's when it's supposed to take place when they vote on it.
Yeah.
So, that was
Do
the,
you have any idea, of course, I guess you wouldn't because the moratorium's in place. I'm just curious, what is it, if this gets defeated, what's gonna be limited for us?
Well,
as far as
I
maybe-
can tell you the activity within office, the Gringo, which is the Hickory Valley site, they, by email requested a copy of permit application last week. They have not filed that, and I know no other, company has.
Of course, their grandfathered in, and it's gonna be a negotiation process between you and Ringo in order, if it comes into fruition, they get their permit from EPA, right? 'Cause
I think their next item on their agenda is submit their plan for review. And that's y'all. I can tell you my opinion on it when I look at it, and I'll preview it for you and make notes. And it's y'all. But y'all as a planning committee. Y'all can take that preliminary plan and invoke any requirements that y'all deem necessary from y'all's collective deliberation and make those requirements that we give it back to them, and they come back to a final. My office and staff is to verify that those changes are implemented on that final one, and if they are in compliance with everything y'all asked from the preliminary and the planning review, I then can issue
So let me ask a question that's related to that process. When they get the permit, it comes before us for review. Is there anything that's prohibiting this board to have a work session to look at this, digest this, and talk amongst ourselves, become educated about it, and before we come to a public meeting?
I think
So
to
that
be
the first
technically,
time-
I think to be technically correct, we call a special meeting. It has a different day interval than the schedule of these public hearings. You call that, you have that session and focus just on that is probably an excellent idea.
That way, you know, we understand, we ask questions, we do our own individual research, we have a clear understanding, so that when we get amongst commissioners and the public, we can articulate our view.
Well, not to put any pressure on this particular individual, we do have an engineer on the committee now.
Homework. I'm gonna copy off his page, I'm gonna copy off his page.
Well, I don't think that's certainly gonna hurt, you know, and maybe looking at stuff that wouldn't fit,
And I
pop
got-
out to me.
I gotta tell you, I read these, I support both of them. I read it and looked at it from the standpoint that the solar resolution that has been positively recommended by this group is scheduled to go to county commission next week. I see no, if they ask my opinion, I will tell them that this committee and my office 100% supports that in its existence. And then this, to Andy's point, and everybody else's agreement, would provide the necessary definitions and clarifications of some of the things that are referenced to. Because without this, it would leave some assumptions of applied definitions and things of that nature. This just better cleans it up.
All right, I got a whole bowl of cereal waiting for me for dinner, so.
I move we accept this, resolution as it's read.
We have a second. All in favor?
Both of them, right?
Yes, both of us.
Both of them. And Mr. Chair, if I may.
Yes, sir.
Just to, you know, being that we are going to, this power plant resolution as it is read and adopted unanimously by this planning commission. I'm curious, any one of us, other than myself, from a planning commission standpoint, has been contacted by a county commissioner, maybe asked questions about, you know, I mean, I'm just asking, this is not just kind of a survey thing. I mean, is it too restricted? Is it restricted, not restricted enough? You know, I'm just curious, so.
It was emailed out to all commissioners last week or maybe the week before, you know.
Yeah.
And Commissioner Grantham has come by the office and asked for an explanation of it. I provided what I could.
Well, you know, like I said.
Always has me to meet with you.
Absolutely, and I mean, I have met, 3 have talked to me, and I mean, and I don't wanna know names, that's my intent, I was just curious, you know, I don't know how this, I hope to Jim's point, this thing goes, you know, they accept our unanimous recommendation of this going to there, I think it's a great resolution, it caters to both sides. And I mean, somebody who wants
That
it,
is almost
they,
18 months of work,
Yes.
diplomatic resolve, is a kind.
How many times did you, rewrite that and you don't even wanna talk about it?
No
You don't even wanna talk about it.
well, and I'm gonna ask respectfully, and if he doesn't have a problem with it, the Mayor Pulse has asked me to get up and say a few comments, speaking to the commission, as I've done before. I'm respectfully asking Jim, if he wouldn't mind if I present it to him.
Absolutely.
And of course, you know, I mean, or me, or anyone else on this planning commission, if that would be a problem. I don't know if that needs to be in the form of a motion. Anybody else that wants to do it, hey, I'm not a great public speaker, but, you know, I think we can get across.
I don't think it needs to be a motion, you're asked by the mayor.
Well, he asked me just to speak, he didn't ask me to speak, you know, in present the resolution as we voted.
I would hate for it to be found unfavorable if myself or any other commissioner had contingencies, with issues or other things that they. So, it is a good resolution, it is a fair resolution, it is, a great mediation of private citizen and industry merging in together, then the path that will go forward.
Yeah, but as it relates to.
Dealing with all housing,
That's exactly right. We're not just, we're trying not to pick on solar. I mean, this would be a gas plant, nuclear plant, wind, anything. And, you know, of course, we've already passed it, so, you know, we don't have to talk ourselves.
We look forward to you presenting.
Well, I appreciate that. Thank you for indulging me.
Any other business?
I'm moving.
Second, all in favor? All right, drive safe, be careful, the road. Don't want cereal. Yeah, but it's 5 to 1.